emotional in this video. I know that this video comes as a shock to a lot of you, especially those of you who are not on Instagram with me. I'm honestly shocked too that I'm posting a video on here, let alone sharing this wonderful news that honestly hasn't fully soaked in yet. The last video I posted on YouTube was over a year ago, January of 2025, telling you guys that I was going off social media for a little bit, not sure how long it was gonna be for, if I was ever gonna come back. I was at the lowest point mentally that I've ever been in my whole life, still dealing with the miscarriage, really trying to figure out what therapy I needed. I needed therapy for sure, I knew that, and just really struggling with who I was, where to go from here. You know, Quinn was gonna turn 2 soon, and really struggling with the fact that I probably wasn't gonna have another baby, but we do have one more frozen embryo, and I really wasn't expecting that to stick. I wasn't sure what was gonna happen. I didn't have the courage to even try for another transfer, even though I wanted a second baby so bad. I would have given anything, literally pretty much anything, to have a second baby. And so I was just dealing with so much. I was still dealing with Quinn's birth trauma. I was dealing with the trauma of the miscarriage. I was dealing with trauma from IVF, and I just didn't know. I hit rock bottom. I didn't know where to go from there. And so I left you guys over a year ago, just not knowing what was gonna happen. And here I am. Oh my gosh, here I am to tell you guys just the most special news ever. So I'm here to tell Frankie's birth story, our birth story. And there's not gonna be enough time. This video would be way too long to tell you guys everything that happened leading up to the transfer last year, how the transfer went. I had a pretty high risk pregnancy with little Frankie. And so I really wanna make separate videos on that. And I'm really hoping I can. Now that Frankie is 10 weeks already. It's been a very long 10 weeks with her, and that's the reason why I have not shared with you guys the news on YouTube, and I haven't shared our birth story yet, because I quite literally have not had the time or the energy or the sleep behind me to do it. The sleep deprivation has been brutal with her, and so I think that's why all of this hasn't completely soaked in yet, because I've literally been in survival mode with her. She's been a very difficult newborn with many challenges. I feel like we kept running into challenge after challenge after challenge. Now that she's 10 weeks and we've got her reflux under control a little bit. She was diagnosed with that a few weeks ago. Her weight gain we're on an okay curve now. I finally got a little bit more sleep last night. I'm like, okay, Quinn's out of the house. He turned 3 last month. That's crazy. I have a 3-year-old now. He's doing great, by the way. He's out of the house with Josh. Yuma's out. I'm in here by myself. Frankie is napping in the other room. And I was like, okay, this is my chance. This is my chance to film our birth story, tell you guys all about what happened. But again, I really want to make separate videos on everything that happened after I posted that last YouTube video over a year ago, what therapy I got, what I did to get myself healthier mentally, physically, and what happened with everything leading up to the transfer and all of that, because 2025 was quite eventful, very busy, stressful, exciting, special, magical, all the things. Going into 2026, I had Miss Frances Kelli on January 17th of this year. I was induced because of high blood pressure, unfortunately. The induction was so smooth, and I could not have asked for a more redemptive birth story, you guys. Oh, I can't wait to share. Okay, so let's get into it. Little Frankie, like I said, is napping. She is going to wake up any minute. So I know you guys will meet her at some point during the video. And honestly, I'll probably have to nurse her while I'm finishing up the story, because I am on a time crunch. I cannot film anything when Quinn's here. And so I know they'll be back in like a half an hour. So we're gonna get going on this video. And if I have to nurse her with you guys, so be it. It is what it is. And that's a life with having 2 kids, which has been kind of a tough transition. And that can be another topic for another video in the future as well. Okay, you guys, so like I was mentioning before, I was induced at 37 weeks because of high blood pressure, and I knew that this was going to kind of be the case from the get-go. My blood pressure was high from the very start, from first trimester, to where they're like, okay, you've had preeclampsia in the past, you're at high risk for preeclampsia again. So I had a bunch of labs drawn. I think it was at 10 weeks into my pregnancy, and it was already showing borderline labs. There was already protein in my urine they were worried about, so they were going to give my body the benefit of the doubt out, and they weren't saying to me right away I was going to get induced early, but they were putting that bug in my ear that it's a real possibility that you're going to get induced again at 37 weeks. But they were saying, okay, well, if your blood pressure stays okay and your labs are staying steady, like maybe we can push it to 38 or 39 weeks. And so of course I was under the care of my regular OB and maternal fetal medicine. And maternal fetal medicine was, of course, the group that was running the show, and my OB was sort of just following their guidance. So again, another topic for another video on my pregnancy. It was quite a stressful pregnancy. All in all, went fine. But of course, then with the trauma of the miscarriage, I was already pretty stressed at every appointment. So by 34 weeks, we knew that I was going to get induced by 37 weeks. And so what was nice about that is I got to plan for it. So we had an induction date by 34 weeks. I was able to choose kind of what date within that 37th week I wanted to get induced. And I just told my OB, which my OB this time was a group of midwives. Oh my gosh, you guys, highly recommend. If they're able to take you and you're pregnant or you want to be pregnant in the future, go with a midwife or a midwifery group. Oh my gosh, huge part of why this birth experience was so much more positive than the one with Quinn with a medical OB. Nothing against medical OBs, they're great. With my past trauma, I needed a lot more TLC emotionally this time, and the midwives definitely provided that for me. And as a side note, the midwife group could take me even though I was high risk because they also work with OB doctors, and so if something were to happen, like the OB doctors could take over or they can consult with them. Plus maternal fetal medicine was also following me, so the midwife group was comfortable taking me even though I was like in the higher risk category. Anyway, I was able to choose my induction date, and so I knew that baby was gonna come by around that time. And so then I could tell my in-laws to buy plane tickets the day before, fly up here the day before so that they can be with Quinn, so that whatever time they call me in for that day that we scheduled for, they would already be here. I mean, planning for the birth was in and of itself so much more of a positive experience than last time when I went to my OB appointment, my non-stress test, and they were like, oh, your blood pressure is too high, and they sent me to the hospital, and I did not come home until I had baby, and that was all like an emergency and stressful, and I had Quinn way earlier than I thought I was gonna have him, and the nursery wasn't set, nothing was set up. And so this time I got to plan for it. The nursery was all set up, everything was ready to go, everything was ready to go with Quinn, because preparing for baby number 2 was a little bit more challenging because I already have a baby that I had to make sure he was covered. And so telling my in-laws, okay, this is the induction date, fly up the day before, get your plane tickets, we'll come get you from the airport at this time. And everything was all set up and ready to go before baby came. And it was just so great because I was able to enjoy setting up the nursery and enjoy getting ready for baby and the baby prep, and just knowing a little bit of what's going to happen in the future was just so great. So great. Okay, so fast forward come the induction day. So we had chosen a couple weeks prior that we wanted to get induced on that Friday, and every Friday I had turned a new week in pregnancy. So that Friday, January 16th, I turned 37 weeks, and so that was the day that we scheduled. Our induction was January 16th on that Friday. So my in-laws flew up the day before, and so they were already here early that morning to cover for Quinn, which was good because the hospital ended up calling me at 6:15 in the morning. And it was so crazy because they had texted me, labor and delivery unit had texted me Thursday night at like 10, like super late at 10:30, saying that if you don't hear from us between 5 a.m. and 6 a.m. the next morning, then expect a phone call like later in the day for us to like call you in. So I had set my alarm for like 5:30, just so I would be more awake to potentially take that phone call, and they never called me. But then they end up calling me at 6:15. Okay. So I answer the phone, it's labor and delivery, and they said, hey, can you get here by 7? And I'm like, it's 6:15. No, I live like 20 minutes away, and plus I have a toddler, and plus, no, I haven't even gotten, I just rolled out of bed. Luckily, I mean, I had my bag all packed and everything, but like, I can't get there by 7. I said, we might be able to get there by 7:30. And they said, okay, great. So I wake up Josh, he's like, they're already calling me. He's like, okay. So we get ready real quick, grab my bag, he grabs his bag. Quinn's still asleep at this point, and my in-laws are sleeping downstairs and I text them and they come up. They're super excited and we're super excited and Quinn's still in bed, so that's fine. So we leave the house by a little before 7 and we're driving over there and the whole thing is just so surreal. Like I just started, I don't know, just remembering Quinn's birth story and all the work that we've done and the transfer and oh my gosh, like this is wild. This is happening. I'm gonna have a baby. I'm gonna have our second baby. At the same time, I was getting very nervous for the induction. I, this whole time, really did not want to get induced again. And of course you can't help, even though I had done so much work with EMDR and my therapist to really soften all of those traumatic thoughts that I was having from Quinn's birth, I was still spiraling a little bit in my head, driving over there like, oh no, like we were bracing ourselves for another really long labor and delivery, somewhat traumatic. You know, we were open to really anything can happen. And I was not expecting the story that I'm about to tell you. By the way, we had hired a doula group too. I was on the fence whether to do this or not. It's expensive, insurance doesn't cover it, but I really felt in my heart of hearts that this was the right thing to do. Anyway, I texted my doula that we were on our way to the hospital, and so I had their support as well. It's a group of 3 doulas, and I didn't know which doula I was gonna get, which is totally fine. All 3 are wonderful. And that was the thing, is I had their support throughout the 3rd trimester. If I felt anything weird, I could text them. They were super helpful emotionally with all of the appointments and texting them and updating them with the appointments and everything. So anyway, I had their support as well. So we get there and we go up to labor and delivery triage and we get admitted, and it was weird walking into labor and delivery without being in labor at all. I will say that. And it was the same hospital that I had Quinn in. It was the same floor I had Quinn on. It's a little bit like deja vu, but in a weird way. Like literally almost to the day 3 years later. They just turned 3. So it was just a wild plethora of different emotions I was feeling as I walked onto that labor and delivery room, not in labor, about to get induced again. We walk into our room that we're gonna have baby in. Immediately I noticed the big thing that they put the baby in right after delivery, and that was all ready to go. That was right there staring me in the face. And then the bed and all the different balls and the bathtub, and I was like, whoa, here we go again. But this time just felt so much more special. I was prepared, everybody was prepared. My in-laws had Quinn, I know he was taken care of. I had done so much work mentally on myself. And it's crazy, like walking in here, I was nervous. I'm always nervous. Anything medical, I'm nervous. At the same time, I knew deep down in my heart that it was all gonna be okay. And everything works out the way that it's supposed to and the way that it's supposed to happen. And I truly believe that. And the whole thing of last year leading up to the transfer and pregnancy, the theme of what I was working on was trust. Trust myself, trust my body, trust a healthcare team, just trust the process. Just having that trust piece I was working on so much that like I kept reminding myself, no, trust yourself, trust. This is all gonna be okay. This is all gonna work out how it's supposed to. And it did. It totally did. So we get in there, I meet my nurse, she's wonderful. It takes a while to do all the paperwork, all the stuff on the computer, or I have to sign a bunch of stuff, induction paperwork, all the things. So, because I had walked into the labor and delivery room, I think at like 8 o'clock, 7:45, 8 o'clock, we had gone in there. And by the time my nurse had done all the checking in stuff, paperwork, stuff on the computer, me signing all the things, it was like 9 o'clock or 9:15. So she gave me some time to just kind of settle in the room, unpack my bag a little bit, and then she came back at 9:30 and started the induction med. I say med because it's one med they started on me at 9:30, and it was Cytotec that she inserted vaginally, which was different because with Quinn, I had Cytotec orally. And if you guys aren't familiar with inductions or anything, Cytotec is a medication that helps soften the cervix because they cannot start Pitocin or get you into any sort of contraction pattern without the cervix being softened first. So you have to soften the cervix and get some effacement going before you start Pitocin if that's the route you're going. My midwife had actually checked me in the office a few days prior to this induction, and I was already, I can't remember if I was effaced, but I was already almost 2 centimeters dilated, I want to say, in the office. So my body was already doing something. We weren't starting from zero, when I think we were starting from zero with Quinn. So my body was starting to do something, but we needed to soften my cervix a lot. So my nurse gave me Cytotec vaginally this time, and like I said, with Quinn it was oral. And so then after that, they had me on the monitor, the baby monitor, and monitoring my contractions and monitoring baby. And because I had actually worked the day before, believe it or not. I was tired from work. I was tired from preparing for baby. I was just tired, like toddler, dog, all the things, that I took a nap after that. And Josh was in the room with me, and I think he took a nap, or he like laid in the bed with me. I don't know. And then we watched TV for a little bit, and then it was lunchtime, and Josh went out and got us lunch and came back, and we ate lunch together in the bed. And you guys, I treated this like a vacation. I was like, this is great. I don't have to do anything. I'm just in the bed, I watch TV. I don't have to watch toddler. I don't have to do anything. I don't have to clean. I don't have to work. Like, it was so relaxing. And then come like 2 o'clock, I was like, you know what? I should probably start walking around to get this going. So I asked to be taken off not taken off, they won't let me off the monitor, but they put me on this, like, the monitor that can be detached from the main monitor. Portable, that's the word I'm looking for. Portable monitor, portable fetal monitor. So I could walk around the room. I think I just put it like around my shoulder. I have a picture, I'll put on the screen, it's pretty funny. So I'm walking around and, you know, just kind of, I don't feel much of anything yet. And like I said, by this time it's around 2 o'clock in the afternoon, walk around. So then by 3, and by the way, my vitals were okay. My blood pressure was like 130, 140, so they're okay with that. That's been baseline the whole time. So they didn't have to really do anything, just watching me. So I wasn't on any IVs, I wasn't on anything. I was just on a fetal monitor, walking around the room. So I guess they were saying that I was having some contractions, but everything looked okay. At one point, I think around noon, my uterus was acting up. Like I was contracting and it was kind of all over the place. Like my uterus was irritable. So they said that I was probably dehydrated. They gave me a bolus of fluid around that time through the IV, and then I drank a bunch of water and it calmed it down. So that was really the only intervention I had between that first dose of Cytotec to now, which is around 2:30 and walking around. So by 3:30, they gave me my second dose of Cytotec vaginally. And then that's actually what got things going a little bit more. I did start to feel contractions, not painful, not intense at all, but just sort of a feeling of like Braxton Hicks contractions, where like my stomach was kind of like, I could feel it tightening. So I continued to kind of walk around a little bit more. At this point, it was like 5, and Josh went out and got us dinner, brought it back, we ate dinner. And then my midwife came in at 6 p.m. and wanted to check me. And I said, okay. Let's see where we're at. And I was already 60% effaced and 3 or 4 centimeters dilated. See, I should have filmed this much sooner than this, because now I'm already forgetting these little details. But I was 60% effaced and I think 3 centimeters dilated, something like that. To the point where they're like, oh, let's just watch you, because you're already doing things on your own. We're not gonna start Pitocin yet, we're gonna watch you. And this whole time leading up to my induction date, the doulas were telling me, and my midwife was telling me as well, that second pregnancies go faster. They're generally go way faster than first pregnancies, and they're easier. Labor and delivery is oftentimes easier. And I asked, well, even with inductions, they said yes. Second time inductions as well go faster, easier. They're just overall way faster, and your body kind of recognizes what to do. So like the first time, you know, induction or not, the first time you go into labor and you have your baby, your body doesn't really know what it's doing yet. This is the first time that it's going into labor. It's the first time having a baby. Second time around, whether it's an induction or spontaneous labor and delivery, your body knows what to do the second time because it already did it the first time. And so they said with an induction, your body should recognize those medications and kickstart things faster. And I said, that's music to my ears, but I was not expecting that. I was like, okay, well, whatever. I'm still expecting a really long labor and delivery, like with Quinn's labor and delivery total, I think from the start of the induction to when I had Quinn, it was 26 hours. I was told all along that this is gonna be faster, easier, and I was not believing anybody. I was like, yeah, right. One of the midwives checked me at 6 p.m. Looks like your body's doing some stuff. Let's just watch you for a little bit longer. We're not gonna do anything else. And I had been dealing with sciatica pain the 3rd trimester pretty intensely on and off. And so after she checked me, I got really bad sciatica pain to the point where I could not walk around anymore. I had to lay on my side with my leg up with a peanut ball in between my legs. That's the only way I could relieve the sciatica pain. So I was in bed on my side with my leg up for a couple hours. I wanted to walk around and get things going, but I was like, I can't with the sciatica pain. Anyway, I'm there for a while. I'm still on my side, and they do change a shift. I meet my new nurse. My nurse leaves for a little bit. All of a sudden, okay, I'm still on my side with my leg up. I feel a weird burst, like a weird bubbling in my vagina that kind of hurt. And I was like, what is that? And then I feel warm wetness down my legs. And I'm like, what? I'm like, did my water just break? I think my water broke. So my nurse just happened to come back in to check on me. And I'm like, I think my water broke. she's like, okay, let me check you. So, oh yeah, your water broke. And of course, when your water breaks, they check it, make sure there's no meconium in it. That's what they're worried about, but looks good. And I was like, dang. So my midwife that had all day, she comes in pretty quickly and also checks me and was like, oh yep, water broke, looks good. And she's already starting the bath, you guys. So I had mentioned that morning that I would like to labor in the bathtub because I did that with Quinn a little bit and it really helped with contractions. She's already getting the bathtub started for me. And I'm like, no. I'm like, is it a little early? Like, I'm expecting this to be a long drawn out thing and she's already getting the water going. Anyway, I get up, I had to pee anyway, walk to the bathroom, clean myself up a little bit, and then I start to feel contractions. Like they are already starting to get uncomfortable and I'm like, whoa, okay. And by this point it's 8:30 and I'm feeling these contractions. They're not super painful yet, but they're painful enough to where I have to concentrate when I get one and like kind of breathe through it. So then by 9 o'clock they were really picking up and I was like, oh my gosh, what is going on? Like, is this really happening this fast? So I'm texting my doula, you know, water broke, I'm having contractions, and by 9:30, I can't have a conversation anymore. Every time a contraction hits, I have to like stop, breathe, and I'm walking around the room. Right before my water broke, Josh decides to take a shower because he's like, you know what, I might as well get the shower in right now before everything hits. And I can't take a shower. So he's actually in the shower when my water breaks and he hears all the commotion. So he like quickly ends his shower and comes out and I'm like, my water broke. He's like, oh my gosh. I was like, good thing you took a shower because I don't know what's gonna happen now. Anyway, so he didn't actually experience that with me firsthand because he was trying to prepare himself for the long night. Anyway, 9:30, I'm having these intense contractions and I'm like, this is wild. So I pull out my phone and I had already downloaded a contraction app. The doulas had recommend that just in case my body does go into labor spontaneously at some point, or if I wanted to track contractions during the induction if I didn't have an epidural. Anyway, I got that out, opened the app, and I hadn't set it up yet, so I set it up really quickly as I'm like laboring. And I start timing my contractions and they are consistent. They're lasting a minute and they're 2 minutes apart. And so I'm texting my doula this. By this time it's 10 o'clock and I'm getting in the bath. I'm like, I need some relief here. I'm almost dying already. Like, this is crazy. We had changed midwives at this point. So the midwife that had all day left and I had a night midwife. And she was so wonderful. And she was like, you know what? You've been good all day. Baby looks good. Your blood pressure's been good. I'll let you labor off the monitor. I was like, really? Okay, love that. So I was not on a fetal monitor at this point at 10 o'clock. I was able to get in the bath. And what my nurse wanted to do though was Doppler baby's heart rate with each contraction or with a lot of the contractions just to make sure baby's okay. So she was putting a Doppler thing to my belly quite a bit, which is a little annoying, but that's fine. It's better than laboring on monitor. So I'm in the warm bath and I have my arms over the tub and I am timing contractions and I'm texting my doula, hey, this is getting really intense. She's like, do you think you need support now? I said, I think so, because I have never gone into labor spontaneously. Like with Quinn, it was just all an induction. Like the whole thing was so medical. Because now at this point, my water broke spontaneously and I'm going into labor spontaneously. I'm in labor because my body put me into labor. Yes, the cytotech like initially kickstarted it, but then my water broke and my body is in labor by itself. It was just the most wild, special, surreal experience. Because I will tell you that laboring off Pitocin, having contractions that are not Pitocin contractions are so different than Pitocin contractions. Pitocin contractions are, these are painful and intense and everything else too, but Pitocin contractions are a whole nother level of pain and there's hardly any break in between contractions. Like you're really contracting hard every time. I can't really explain too much. I don't have the words to explain the difference, but there is a marked difference between spontaneous labor contractions and Pitocin contractions. And that proved it. Because I thought with Quinn, I was like, this is too much. And it was. Anyway, so I'm laboring. My doula shows up at almost 11, I want to say like 10:45. And I had paid the extra money for her to do pictures during the labor and delivery process, which I'm so glad I did. And I'm sharing some of them on here with you guys now. She shows up, I'm in the bathtub. She's providing the comb and these like spiky balls I can squeeze. And then she's requesting the nitrous oxide to try for me. So I had that going. I wasn't a big fan of that. It doesn't take away the pain. It just makes it so that you're not caring as much. Like it makes you loopy, it makes you high. But to me, I was so nauseous. Once I was like full on in labor, I was pretty nauseated. It just made me more nauseous. So I used it here and there, but it wasn't really a big fan of it. The other thing is I was GBS positive, meaning I was positive for that strep bacteria that I think like 30% of women are positive for that bacteria. So they needed to give me 2 doses of IV antibiotics before baby is born. And those antibiotics have to be timed 4 hours apart. So they gave me the first dose at 8 o'clock when my water broke. And then because I was going into labor so fast, by 11 o'clock, I was having like regular contractions, very intense, moaning through them in the bathtub, that they were starting to get worried that they weren't going to be able to give me my second dose of antibiotics by midnight. And it's not a huge deal if that weren't gonna happen, but if they don't give me that second dose of antibiotics before baby's born, the baby has to stay in the hospital for an additional 48 hours for monitoring, because baby can get that bacteria, I guess strep infection or some sort of infection from the vaginal area if I don't get that antibiotic, the second dose of antibiotics before baby's born. But luckily we're still able to do that. By midnight, I got out of the tub in between contractions. They were able to give me my second dose of IV antibiotics. And at that point, in between contractions, my midwife checked me. And I was 9.5 centimeters dilated, guys. It was I cannot believe it. I was laboring so hard. Like, it was so intense by this point that like if I didn't have my doula, I probably would have gotten the epidural. I was transitioning, I was throwing up. So I was definitely in transition, like I said, and I was throwing up and I was shaking. And I knew baby was like coming at some point. I didn't know how soon. Before they checked me, I was freaking out. I was like, I think I need the epidural. My doula was like, no, let's check you first. Cause I had told my doula group beforehand, like, it would be really nice if I could try to have baby unmedicated. I know it's an induction, and if I have to have Pitocin, I probably will have to have the epidural, but I would really like to try an unmedicated birth. And so my doula, before all this, my doula was like, okay, well, I am going to be a little bit harder on you then and push you a little bit more so that hopefully we can meet your goals. And I was like, okay. So anyway, she's like, no, Brittany, remember what we talked about? Let's check you first and see where you're at. And then if you're not that far along, we can talk about epidural. I said, okay, fine. So in between contractions, midwife checked me. I'm 9.5 centimeters dilated, and I'm like, oh shit. She's like, oh, let's go time. So at this point, by now it's 12:30 at night, and I am on kind of the best position that helped me was having my arms over the back of the bed and kind of like in a tripod position and laboring that way. At this point, my doula put a TENS unit on my lower back, and this TENS unit is kind of like, it gives you like little zaps of electricity or something like that. I don't know, it feels really good. It feels like little vibrations on your lower back. It doesn't really help with pain, but it's more of a distraction from the labor contractions, and to me it felt really good. This time around as well, you guys, I had no back labor. With Quinn, the back labor was excruciating. This time, all the pain was in the front and the abdomen, which was really, really good. That was really nice. I was able to really kind of concentrate more on breathing and the contractions because they were so in the front and not in the back. I have Josh on one side, I have my doula on the other side, and with each contraction, she was able to administer counter pressure on my hips. So she had one hand on each of my hips and kind of like was pushing like this with each contraction, which really helped me deal with the pain and the pressure. And because she's also taking pictures, she had to leave me for a couple of contractions to take pictures. And I was like looking for her, like I needed that counter pressure so much to get through each contraction. So then by 1, apparently baby was right there. It was kind of all a blur at this point. I know my nurse was still Dopplering the heartbeat, and then I had my midwife in and out of the room, I think, and then I had another nurse sort of like underneath me, just seeing where baby was. Apparently by a little past 1, because I was facing the wall, so I couldn't see the front of the room. Josh was like, Brittany, there's a bunch of nurses in here and everybody's coming in, like baby's close, it's close, you're close. I'm like, okay, because at this point I was like, when am I gonna get off this train? Like this is awful. The pain was so bad, it was so intense. And by this point, there wasn't much break in between contractions. It was kind of one long contraction after contraction after contraction. And I was like, at this point I was screaming and yelling, and I'm sure I was surprising myself of how loud I was. But Josh and my doula was like, you're close. And the other thing too is I wouldn't have known where I was at in the labor process. I trusted my doula telling me, Brittany, baby is close, baby is close, like hang in there, hang in there. And I was like, okay, I trust you. Because Josh doesn't know this stuff, right? And I think with the experience of my first, with the induction, come to find out I was in transition, because when they checked me with Quinn, I was also 9.5 centimeters dilated before I got the epidural. And if I had just hung in there a little bit more, I probably would have been able to have him unmedicated. But I didn't know, like I didn't know where I was at. But having my doula there to encourage me of like, you got this, you're really close, just literally a few more minutes. And I was like, I can't do it, I can't do it. She's like, you can. So by about 1:15, I think, so many people were in the room at this point, so many people. My midwife had me turn, so I was over the top of the bed, and she just kind of had me turn to face everybody. And I'll post a picture here and blur out parts that I should blur out. So from a tripod position, they told me to turn around and with my left hand, grab my left knee and pull up. So my right leg was sort of down, and I was able to kind of do a crunch and push with each contraction that way. So I was still upright and with my knee and kind of like, and that gave me so much momentum to push baby out in that position. Pushed for 10 minutes and she was out. 10 minutes, that's it. That's all it took, was 10 minutes of pushing. Granted, she was only 6 pounds, 6 ounces when she was born, but pain was so bad, ring of fire, the whole thing. She comes out, but the moment she comes out, pain's gone. I'm like, oh my gosh. What? And they were like, okay, grab your baby. So I grabbed her and pulled her up to my chest. You guys, I couldn't believe what just happened. Talk about a redemptive experience from the last one. This birth experience was so redemptive. Not only was it a wonderful birth experience, I got to experience spontaneous labor. I got to experience an unmedicated birth. Yes, it was an induction at first, but that turned into spontaneous labor and an unmedicated birth, and a fast one too. I had all the support I ever wanted and needed. I had a wonderful midwife, I actually had 2 nurses. I had a new grad nurse and a seasoned nurse. So I had 2 nurses with me. I had a wonderful doula who's 20 plus years experience and taking pictures. I had a husband who's been through this the first time with me before and was so much more educated this time with me. I had so much support, and it was so primal too, you guys. It didn't feel medical. Like I didn't have any IVs attached to me. I didn't have a fetal monitor over my belly. I was just in labor. That's it. Like, what? I grabbed her, she's on my chest, and I'm like in shock what just happened, because it was so special. Like I did that. All of the therapy, all of the work on myself, all of the unknown, all of the high risk stuff during pregnancy, it all came down to this moment. My miracle baby, my rainbow baby, a baby I didn't think I would have. On top of that, the labor and delivery experience I didn't think I would have, the support I didn't think I would have, and baby's healthy. I was very worried that at 37 weeks, and she was measuring small in utero this whole time, that she wouldn't be able to handle being born early. Like Quinn was okay. He was turned blue a couple times, but never needed like the NICU. Like he was okay. Not great, but he was okay at 37 weeks. I was really kind of expecting her to like need support. Maybe she needs some NICU, whatever. No, she's totally fine. APGAR scores of 9, like tiny, 6-pound baby, but no problems at all. She did great. Breathing's great. She latched right away. She nursed. I nursed her for 40 minutes. Pretty quickly after she was born. Dreams really can come true, you guys. They really can come true. They had to deliver my placenta after that, which actually was almost as painful as the labor part. My placenta was, they call it sticky, like it just was pretty stubborn. They had a hard time getting my placenta out, but that took about 45 minutes or so. They gave me some fentanyl for that, which helped. But once the placenta was out, I felt much better. You guys, I didn't tear either. It was slight tearing, I guess, but not big enough for any stitches. So I had no stitches. So the healing process postpartum was a breeze. So I had Frances Kelli, little Frankie, we call her Frankie, at 1:28 a.m. on Saturday morning, January 17th of 2026. I stayed in labor and delivery room for a couple of hours, just kind of checking my vitals and making sure everything looks good, make sure baby's okay, and then I got sent up to the postpartum room by, I think we got there at like 4 a.m. so early in the morning. Met my wonderful postpartum nurse. All the nurses were so great. It was pretty cool this second time around, because now once I got to the postpartum room, like I already knew what to do. I had my Huckleberry app ready to go. I knew that they would be asking asking me like how often I'm feeding baby, for how long, what side, for how long, wet diapers, meconium. So I know we would have to keep track of all of that. So I just kept track of it on my app. So it was really nice because once I got up to postpartum, like I already knew what to expect. Like everything kind of comes back to you on how to take care of a newborn. And we were both so relieved that it all went great. And Josh and I were celebrating. We were obviously super tired. So, we went to bed right away. By that time, it was early Saturday morning. They let us sleep in till about, 8:30. My nurse comes in. And so then, of course, we have to stay in the hospital on Saturday, and then we get discharged Sunday at noon. So I was only in the hospital for 2 days total. We left the hospital on the 18th of January at noon. We got home, and that's when Frankie met Quinn for the first time, and he kind of was nonchalant about it. He didn't really care about her, which was good. We didn't really want him to be super emotional or like exhibit any high feelings about having baby there. So it was really nice because his grandparents, my in-laws, were there, and they were spoiling him rotten and distracting him and everything. So it was really a nice transition to have my in-laws here for Quinn to give him all the attention he needed so that we can focus on baby. So he actually didn't end up holding Frankie until like weeks after she was home. He just wasn't interested in it. But like more on that, I think in other videos I can tell you guys about like the transition from 1 to 2 and how that's been really hard for us actually. Really, because Frankie's been a very difficult newborn. Speaking of, she's waking up, so I'm gonna go get her so you guys can meet her. Yeah, that's the birth story, guys. We are 10 weeks now postpartum. Little Frankie just hit 9 pounds. She is tiny. She is in the 3rd percentile on her own good growth curve, so we're not too worried about her, but she's a little tiny little thing. Little love bug is what I call her. A tiny little love bug. Thank you so much for all of your guys' support and your love on this last video I posted over a year ago, and for just always being there for me and encouraging me. And I'm so happy and so thankful to be sharing this news with you guys. And I hope that those of you listening will get encouragement from this if you're going through maybe looking at a second transfer or a second baby, or even like going through IVF, infertility, all the hard things, miscarriages. Like I kept going, but I hope this video and my story encourages those of you going through it like I did. So we have our 2 IVF miracles, and our family is complete. Let's go meet everybody, huh? Here she is, little Frances Kelli. We call her Frankie. What do you think? She's got the hiccups. Just fed her. Yeah. You say hi? She is pretty tiny still. All right. We're gonna end here. Let's see if I can bring her closer to you guys. Say bye, YouTube. Bye-bye. Bye guys, see you next time.